I'm more convinced than ever this could be the future of the Red Sox. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. In today's video, we're going to be revisiting a topic that we had talked about a year and a half ago right here on this channel. That's the idea that Red Sox prospect Luis Guerrero could be the future of Red Sox closing, because obviously a lot has happened in the last year and a half, and a lot has happened, in my opinion, to make it even more convincing that this is a legitimate possibility. And it's mostly because there are two big differences between when we talked about Guerrero in 23 and now that we're talking about him again in the early days of 2025. The biggest one, in my opinion, is that you finally have an answer to what he could possibly look like at the big league level, right? Because you got your first taste of what he could do in Major League Baseball last season. In 2024, he had 9 appearances with the Red Sox over 10 innings, and during that time, he didn't allow a single earned run. Not a single run on his part scored while he was on the mound. His FIP was right around the same area. It was actually extremely low as well at 1.97. The WHIP was well below 1 at 0.8. Obviously, 10 innings over 9 games is an incredibly small sample size, and one that's really hard to pull any interpretations out of, right? It's not really a big enough sample size for us to sit here and say, this is what this guy is going to do at the major league level. Normally, a player's first 10 innings in the big leagues doesn't really end up dictating what he's going to do in Major League Baseball, right? That's just sort of how the world works here, but it's one hell of a first impression. It's not just the back of the baseball card statistics that looked really good in his first impression of the big leagues. It's everything. If you dive a little bit deeper into his numbers here, it's still a really pretty picture. He was towards the top of the league in fastball velocity, averaging 97.5 miles an hour on that bad boy. He was really good at limiting hard contact. His expected ERA and batting average against during his first appearance in Major League Baseball were great. He got more chase and swing and miss than your average bear, as well as more strikeouts and less walks and more ground balls. He was a really big reason why the Red Sox bullpen didn't totally implode towards the back end of 2024. Now, they did implode, right? They were really bad in the second half, but he ended up being sort of that shining light in the back end of the bullpen towards the end of the year, right? He was someone that you looked forward to coming into games, which was something you couldn't say about a whole lot of other people, right? That bullpen was just flat out bad. That bullpen was terrible towards the end of the year. Totally off topic, but every time I think about it, I just laugh because it was so good to start the season, and then it just totally fell off a cliff. There were still highlights. Him, Penrod, Greg Weiser were all really solid out of that bullpen. Slayton came back and looked pretty good. Again, totally besides the point. I laugh every time we talk about it. The second big difference in Luis Guerrero's game between when we talked about him in 2023 and now that we're talking about him again in 2025 is the step forward in command he's seen over that time period. That was a big thing with Guerrero, the most talked about aspect of his game. He has the velocity, the swing and miss, the weak contact, but he had trouble keeping the ball in the zone. Just look at his 2023 campaign. He had 11.26 strikeout per 9. Excellent. He had a 0.5 home runs per 9, which is great. The ERA was at just 2.32 in minor league baseball, which is stellar, but the walk rate was up at 6.13. That's over 15% of the batters he faced back in 2023. Even before getting to MLB last year, everything looked good in 24. A 3.31 ERA, a bit higher, but still a really solid ERA statistic. The strikeouts per 9 was great at 13.09, but again, you go back to the walk rate, and that was at 5.3 per 9 innings. About 13.5% of the batters he was facing, he was allowing a free pass to. It was a really big thing that people pointed to and said, this is absolutely terrifying. If he had trouble with command in AA and AAA, what the heck is he going to look like on the biggest stage against the best players in the world? Unfortunately, we know all too well exactly what giving a free pass in later innings could potentially mean for this Red Sox team, right? It was a big problem for the Red Sox, especially over the last couple of years. If you allowed a guy to reach first base in, let's say, the 9th inning with a 1-run lead, most of the time that usually comes back to bite you. Luis Guerrero was on that track, and it scared a lot of people. But things really interestingly turned around as he continued to grow forward in his career. Coming into last season at the big league level, his walk rate dropped to 1.8. He walked just 2 batters in 10 innings of work. In this spring, it really looks like early on that he's continuing to hone in on that. Again, very small sample size here, especially this early on in spring training. He's coming in later in games, which really means that he's not facing guys like Ohtani and Judge. He's more so facing guys like Nate Eaton that we have on this team that are really trying just simply to fight to end up in AAA with this major league team. He's not exactly facing the cream of the crop is what I'm saying, but he's looked absolutely fantastic early on this spring. He has 3 innings in 3 appearances, and in those 3 innings, he struck out 6 of the 11 batters he's faced so far. He's allowed just 1 hit and 1 walk in those 3 innings, and he's just flat out dismantling hitters on the mound. Now again, it's almost impossible to sit here and say, oh, the walk issues are fixed, we're good to go, with 13 innings of evidence to back that up versus 51.4 on the other side of things, right? If you weigh it on a scale here, right? 13 innings where he's really good with limiting walks and 54 in his previous innings not being great at limiting walks. You kind of have to look at the other one and weigh that a bit more. But at the same time, too, the reason this is important because it shows a glimpse of what Guerrero could actually be, right? It shows you that there is the potential for improvement there, and it shows you that he can get to that level of improvement, and that's a very, very good sign, and it's a major difference from back in 2023 when we first talked about him, because again, it was sort of always, this guy could be good if, right? This guy could be good if he figures out his walk rate, if he's allowing less batters to reach on free passes as he continues to grow through the minor league levels. Now it's, okay, this guy could be good if he continues to do what he's doing on the mound. And spring training, if it's any indication at all of what he could be for throughout the regular season, is that he is continuing to do that, exactly that. Be able to limit the walks that he is allowing on the mound. And that to me is a very good sign. Again, it doesn't mean that this is going to be the trend that continues, but it means it's a possibility, and that's absolutely fantastic. Now, the big question with Luis Guerrero is if/when can this actually happen, right? When can Guerrero make a legitimate push to be a back-end arm in the Red Sox bullpen, potentially even the closer for the future of the Boston Red Sox? And the answer is probably not in the exact immediate future, right? Probably not coming into 2025. There's a pretty low chance that he's the closer of the Red Sox coming out of 2025 spring training. And that's mostly due to the fact that the battle right now for that closing position is between 2 guys who have already had significant closing experience in Major League Baseball. And I think significant is a bit of an understatement, especially when you're talking about the Red Sox really focusing on Chapman and Hendricks being those 2 guys. Obviously, Chapman has a pretty good history with closing in Major League Baseball, and obviously Liam Hendricks has some as well, and I think one of those 2 guys ends up actually being their closer coming into the 2025 season. So I don't know if Luis Guerrero has a legitimate shot at doing this in the immediate future. However, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen in the near future. Biggest reason is because both of those guys that I mentioned are on 1-year deals. At the end of the 2025 season, the Red Sox are going to be without a closer once again. That now becomes, who's that going to be? Are they going to go back out and go and get a free agent closer or a trade for a closer? Are they going to allow a guy like Slayton or Guerrero to try and fight for that job? And I think that's a legitimate conversation that we are going to have towards the end of the season this year. On top of that, both of those players that I mentioned are towards the back half of their career. Liam Hendricks hasn't pitched in a little bit. Chapman hasn't exactly been the lights out closer that we've known for years in the last couple of years, and injuries are always a part of Major League Baseball. There's a pretty good chance that at some point in 2025, we do see Luis Guerrero in a role where he's getting meaningful closing opportunities. Now, the question, in my opinion, now becomes, where do the Red Sox place him to start the 2025 season? There are a couple of routes the Red Sox could take here. The first would be to put him on this 26-man roster. He's certainly done enough to deserve that, at least so far this spring training. Obviously, things can change pretty quickly, especially when you have such small sample sizes. But if you include what he did at the Major League level last year with what he's showing early on this spring, there's absolutely reason to say he deserves a spot on this 26-man roster in a bit of a lower leverage role. What this would allow the Red Sox to do would be continuing to develop him without putting him into into situations that are make or break in this game, right? It's not so much this is a 1-run lead, 2 outs in the ninth inning, bases loaded, we're bringing in Guerrero. This is, okay, we're up by 2 runs, we need to get to the 7th and 8th inning. We're going to put Guerrero in to do 2/3 of an inning in the 6th. It would allow him to continue to develop, but it would allow him to continue to develop at the major league level, right? Facing guys that are the highest of the best in the world, that are going to be faces that he is going to recognize, really get him experience against these big league hitters, really get him exposure at the major league level. And that could be absolutely a positive route for the Red Sox to take, and certainly something that's on the table. But I think the other route the Red Sox could take here is starting him in AAA. Again, it sucks. Guerrero has done enough to warrant at least fight for a major league spot, but at the same time too, what starting him in AAA would allow them to do is, one, ensure that what he's been able to do with his command at the major league level and early on this spring training is a trend that is going to continue, that he's actually found something within his game that allows him to do what he's been doing on the mound when it comes to command, right? It allows them to turn this, again, 13 inning sample size into a much bigger thing and allow for more confidence, not only within the organization, but with Guerrero himself. Plus, on top of that, if they were to start him in AAA, they could immediately put him into a closer-esque role. They could give him high leverage innings. Yes, it's not major league high leverage innings, so there's obviously going to be a difference there, but at the bare minimum, it's still high leverage innings and allows him to get used to the idea of, again, coming into a situation where 2 outs, bases loaded, bottom of the 9th inning, you need to get out of this without allowing a single run. Those are the type of situations you need to get used to if the Red Sox want him to be a high leverage back-end reliever or even a closer for this team. So I honestly don't know where Luis Guerrero starts the 2025 season. I think both of these are extremely viable options for different reasons. All I know is that Luis Guerrero right now is one of the more exciting pitching prospects the Red Sox have. Not every pitching prospect needs to be a potential ace. Guerrero has all of the potential, in my eyes, to be one of the most exciting players the Red Sox bring up this season. He's got a whole lot of swing and miss in his game. He's got a whole lot of velocity. He limits a whole lot of hard contact. And if this trend of being able to pound the zone with strikes continues, he could be a really deadly force out of the Red Sox bullpen. And I'm extremely excited to see what Guerrero could be in the future. And again, like I've been saying a couple of times this video, I genuinely think he has the makings of being an actual closer in Major League Baseball. I think he's got the attitude to do it, and the stuff combined with that could make him a really deadly force out of this bullpen. So I'm extremely excited to continue to watch Luis Guerrero grow this year. I really hope he gets some big league innings, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts in AAA and really hones in on everything he's been working on at the major league level. However, this is all just my opinion, so let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think of all this? What do you think about Luis Guerrero? Are you more convinced now than you were back in 2023 that he could be a legitimate piece of this Red Sox team? And how do you think the Red Sox go about utilizing him during the 2025 season? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you guys want to listen instead of watch these episodes, the best way to do that is to head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.